Does magic exist? When I went to sergeant school in the military, my lieutenant told me this great quote. And it goes like this: everything that is sufficiently advanced to be impossible to be understood by an individual will be perceived as indistinguishable from magic by that individual. One of my favorite magicians in this world was actually Prophet Muhammad. You see, he was able to I don't know how to accurately explain this, but okay, let's do it the humiliating way. He was able to sucker all the idiots into picking up a sword and meeting all their enemy idiots out in the desert and committing harakiri together in a huge, gigantic bloodbath. And it was consistently the most violent and psychopathic and ignorant males who ended up bleeding out in the desert. The ones incapable of realizing that this is paradise. That way, Prophet Muhammad was capable of pruning the tree of life for all the most violent bastards to make sure they didn't reproduce. And in such a way he created a less violent world by allowing those who could not manage to understand that violence was not the solution to perish by themselves. Why do you think Prophet Muhammad had 4 wives, for instance? Well, it's actually quite simple. 75% of the male population killed each other. And that's the continuation of the words by Jesus where he says, live by the sword, die by the sword. Well, don't live by the sword then, and then you won't die by it. Which is why we used to, back in the Dark Ages, to allow for 2 adult consenting males to have a duel to death. Because it made sure of that at least one of those idiots died. You see, if you believe in that you need to solve problems with violence, then by all means be my guest. Just make sure you either only kill yourself or some other violent bastard in the process. Just make sure that the ones you commit violence against are consenting. I have no issues with that. It's a free world. That's one example of magic that echoes through the ages for eternity. Maybe you feel that I am cynical by saying such a thing. But believe me, I have seen so many weird things in this world. and so many violent people in this world that I don't really care. Maybe that sounds cynical, but I'm a believer in evolution. The same way Prophet Muhammad was a believer in evolution. And I can see how hate and anger and violence is being genetically transferred from one generation to another generation. And seriously, the best way to solve that problem is actually to allow for people to do what they want to do. And if what they want to do is to kill their brothers, then just make sure that they do such a thing in a context where all the participants are of the same opinion. And that way we actually facilitate for a less violent world by allowing violence to unfold within a context where all the victims of violence are themselves believers in violence. It's basic evolution. That's a great magic trick, I think. You see, you believe in magic. And if you claim you do not believe in magic, then you are lying by the very definition of the term. In fact, most of you guys, every single time you turn the key on your car and you drive your car out on the freeway, you're actually believing in magic. Unless you know every single detail about how your car works. And you can explain it and completely understand it. And I'm not entirely sure, but I don't even think a rocket physicist completely understands that today. Every time you believe in something to work, which you do not know how works, you believe in magic. Another great example of magic. Let's, for the argument's sake, imagine that there is nothing to alternative medicine except placebo. I don't necessarily believe that to be true, but let's, for the sake of the argument, assume that that is a factual statement. Well, most skeptics, so-called skeptics, that are believers in science, are currently at war with alternative medicine because of that, and they use that as an argument. Oh, you can put bread on your back and have the same effect. Well, let's, for the sake of the argument, assume that that is right. Every single time, then, you explain to a person that there is nothing to alternative medicine, like for instance homeopathy, except placebo, then you are unwillingly, probably and hopefully, possibly actually killing that person. Because when that person needs faith to survive, or placebo to survive, then you have been, through your rhetoric and arguments, killing the foundation necessary to make sure that person actually survives. And placebo is an extremely powerful remedy. Something among others Darren Brown has scientifically proven, among other things with his stop smoking experiments and stuff like that. Placebo can truly move mountains. So every time you tell somebody that homeopathy is not real, then by the very definition of the scientific facts in regards to placebo, you are potentially killing that person. You're committing murder by stealing that person's faith in that homeopathy works. If that person in addition is skeptical towards the medical profession, then you will get a negative effect when the person switches to traditional scientific medicine through placebo's evil twin brother called nocebo, which is spelled N-O-C-E-B-O. You see, if you believe that something is harmful to you, then it is harmful. If I believe that I am drinking poison, for instance, then actually I might die, even though it's just water. And that's nocebo. So now I have explained to you a little bit, 10% of how magic actually works from a scientific point of view. Pretty thoroughly backing my claims too, so to speak. And let me ask you again, do you believe in magic? I do.